What is going on, y'all? This is Pay Me in Dividends, and today is December 16th, 2024. Now, before we jump into this video, I just want to do a quick portfolio overview. I'm sitting at $89,420. Now, this is actually a bit inaccurate. This tracker is not updated quite up to date at today's prices. I'm actually closer to $91,000. But that's okay because, listen, this tracker is great to give you a ballpark range of where your portfolio is sitting at. And this is what I choose to use just to give me a quick snapshot of what I'm working with on a day-to-day basis. So let's go over my holdings. My holdings have remained the same since the last video. I still hold 1,000 shares of AIPI and 1,000 shares of MSTY. But today, what I want to talk about is AIPI and why it makes up the majority of my portfolio, right? So artificial intelligence is transforming industries worldwide and has been over the past recent years. And so as investors, we have an opportunity to capitalize on this growth, right? So let's just start from the beginning. AIPI launched in June of 2024, and it offers exposure to the leading AI companies, right? As we can see on their list of holdings, they offer exposure to some of the biggest names in the tech and AI industry. And if we just look at some of these stocks, right, like Palantir, we can see the year-to-date performance has done extremely well. Same with CrowdStrike, it's up 52% year to date. Nvidia is up 174% year to date. And Broadcom is also up 120% year to date. So AIPI was launched in June of 2024. So it hasn't been out very long, but it does offer exposure to AI companies, tech companies, and it tracks the BITA AI Leaders Select Index, right? So if we look at what it tracks, let's go to here. So the BITI AI Leaders Select Index is a rules-based composite index that tracks the market performance of companies listed on the recognized exchanges based in the U.S. that are at the forefront of AI technologies. The index is rebalanced monthly and reconstituted quarterly, right? And so what AIP does is it employs a covered call strategy, and it generates income by selling out of the money call options on these holdings. So this approach not only provides potential income, but it also allows some appreciation in the AI sector, right? And so I think personally, one of the biggest standout features of AIPI is the 34% dividend yield, right? And it is paid out, it is distributed on a monthly basis. So as we can see, since the fund's inception, their first payment was $1.48, which was in July of 2024. The following month, it was at $1.46, then $1.48, then $1.47 in October, and its most recent payment was $1.51. Now, there's a couple things you got to keep in mind, right? So the distribution rate represents a single distribution from the ETF and does not represent its total return. Current distributions consist of 100% estimated return of capital. So that's just something that you got to keep in mind. You can do a bit more research on what return of capital is. It's sort of self-explanatory, but there are actually tax benefits to this type of distribution, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is the expense ratio, right? So the expense ratio is 0.65%. So that pretty much means that for, let's do the math here, right? Let's say you invest $10,000 times 0.65%, basically $650 for every $10,000 that you invest. I believe I'm doing the math on that correctly. If I'm doing it wrong and it's actually only $65, someone please correct me in the comments. But I believe that's what it would mean for a $10,000 investment. Now, that is something to be mindful of. However, just realize that it is almost baked into the fund itself. And with that 34% dividend yield, it's almost like you don't notice it, right? I mean, assuming that the payments remain stable and they continue to distribute a 34% dividend yield, personally, I'm not worried about it, because the way I look at it, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, is these ETF funds, these ETF managers are performing options on your behalf and then paying you out the distribution as a dividend, right? The premium that they're able to extract from the options are being paid out as a dividend. So the alternative to being able to extract this type of premium from this strategy would be to buy these companies as individual stocks on your own and then perform options on these stocks, which does take skill, and it's just something that I'm not interested in doing. I'd rather just buy an ETF that does it for me and is already baked into the strategy, and then I just receive the monthly income, right? Because my whole strategy is to create passive income and that monthly cash flow, right? So AIPI does present an exciting opportunity for me, which is the reason why it makes up majority of my portfolio. And I truly believe that moving forward, right, AI is going to continue to prosper. We can see this in many different launches and different innovations. Google just announced AI glasses with Android software that should be coming out sometime in the future. I did watch a video on it that was pretty interesting. If you guys want to research the AI glasses with the Android software in them, it's something interesting if you're into that type of stuff, that type of tech stuff. But that is just another form of AI that is being implemented into technology, right? And so again, if we look over this list of holdings and what they have, you can see that these are the top companies right now in the world, right? As far as tech companies go: Palantir, CrowdStrike, NVIDIA, Broadcom, Salesforce, Amazon, Apple, Google, IBM, Meta. These are all companies that we know, right? These are household name companies. Microsoft, Cisco, right? And so these are the holdings that are included in this ETF, and they do a covered call strategy and able to extract 34% yield and pay it out on a monthly basis. Now, if we go over to the chart, we can see year to date since its inception back in June, it is up only about 2%, which is not even keeping up with the S&P 500. But again, when you factor in the fact that they've paid a 34% dividend yield, you can see that you can actually create a source of monthly income by just holding on to this ETF. And so this is the reason why it makes up majority of my portfolio. Now, I don't plan on adding any more shares to this because I want to further diversify my portfolio moving forward and going into 2025. And I'll talk more about that in another video as far as which stocks or dividend ETFs I plan on adding to my portfolio and creating a new position in. But as of now, I'm happy with AIPI, and of course you already know MSTY, which is an option ETF based off of MicroStrategy, which is sort of a proxy of Bitcoin because MicroStrategy owns so much Bitcoin. And so the price movements of Bitcoin and MicroStrategy are starting to become heavily correlated because of MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings on its balance sheet. So these are my two biggest holdings right now, with AIPI making up about $50,000 in equity, a little over $50,000 in equity. MSTY makes up the rest of my portfolio. And again, guys, this is the tracker I use. It's called the dividend tracker. It gives you a ballpark range of where your portfolio is. It's not going to be completely accurate because the payments are based off of the previous month's payment, and as we know with these option ETFs, your payments are going to fluctuate based off of the option premium that it's able to extract that given month. But this will still give you a ballpark range based on the previous month's payout of how much dividend income you will receive. So as of now, it is projecting that I will make $5,931 in the month of December. That is assuming that MSTY pays over $4 a share again, and that AIPI remains consistent with about $1.50, anywhere from $1.40 to $1.50 a share. So guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to talk about AIPI and the reason why I invest in them. And this is actually FEPI right here. I had this page open as well because FEPI is part of RecShares as well, which is the ETF manager of AIPI. And FEPI, if you're familiar with AIPI, you should be familiar with FEPI as well. They offer 25% dividend yield, and they hold some of the same stocks in here as well, some tech stocks. As you can see, at the top is Tesla, whereas API at the top is Palantir. So there is a little bit of a difference in these two funds, but there is a lot of overlap as well. But I choose to invest with AIPI, obviously, because the dividend yield is a bit higher, right? FEPI is a 25% dividend yield. AIPI is a 34% dividend yield. But both ETFs have about the same share price, and both have remained stable. And with AI having a bright future and having a bit more volatility, it seems like they're able to extract a bit more premium out of AIPI. So I'm going to go ahead and keep AIPI as my main anchor in my portfolio, and then I'm going to start building around this, right? So I have MicroStrategy covered, which is again sort of a Bitcoin proxy. I'm not saying it's the same as investing directly into Bitcoin. It'll never be the same, but it does have a heavy correlation. And for a guy like me who's not too big into crypto, I do like the fact that I do have some sort of exposure by default of investing into MSTY. And so for me, that's good enough. I have that base covered. I'm going to let those 1,000 shares sit and just receive that income. Same thing for AIPI. I do not plan on adding any more shares to these two positions. I'm just going to collect this income, and then after the new year, I'm going to begin building a new position, and my goal is to acquire and buy another 1,000 shares of my new position, which again I'll get into sometime in the future, probably sometime around January, once I decide which dividend stock or ETF I want to lock in, and just go ahead and start accumulating shares until I hit 1,000 shares of that next income ETF. And so that's it for this video. Again, as always, I appreciate you guys watching. I am now at 419 subscribers. As always, I'm super grateful. I appreciate y'all watching my videos. If you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what you think about AIPI. Is it something that you already own? Is it something that you've been looking at? Did you just hear about it? And let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see y'all in the next video.